Hello, This video is regarding something comments about the cytokinin storm. I think this word is not such familiar to us. So this word, let us know what does this word means and what happened in COVID-19 patient. And I know this, not COVID-19 itself, the word itself make the people panic. Again, what more facts about that disease, this will be going. Not, nothing like that, but this video is something regarding myths about what is its mechanism, what happens in the body of the COVID-19 patients, and what complications, what does they are facing. So that there are many fatal conditions in the world, many are dying due to that. Let us get know about it so that maybe therapy can be given to prevent such condition and the patients may be recovered soon. So before getting into the cytokine storm, the storm word itself, we know what the storm means, something violent disturbance. So similar word, something violent means cytokine storm means whatever the like that cytokinin itself is a glycoprotein. So those overproduction or disturbance in our body causes surge effect. This cytokine storm is also known as infusion reaction. Oh, before getting into this, let us know what cytokinin, what is its normal action, what is its role in our body during infections. Let us look upon it. Later on, we will see what is cytokinin storm, what are its signs and symptoms, how will you diagnose, based on what are the criteria and what happens in COVID-19 patient. We will see individual. Before that, cytokinin is something, it is a regulatory innate response produced in our body during the early stage of infection or any trauma. These are the large group of protein or glycoprotein that are secreted by the specific cells of our body immune system. Before any infection at early stage, what happens? Natural killer cells and macrophages, they release. These are known as immune modulator mechanism. So these NK cells and macrophages release such proteins, cytokinins. What does they do in our body? These cytokinin proteins are of various levels like interleukin, interferons, many are there like tumor necrosis factor. We'll see individually what they do in normal. During the infection, what happened? I said that NK cells and macrophages release cytokinins. So they release first interleukin 1 and interleukin 6 and 12. So these cytokines do, they activate the mechanism. So there will be a raise in our body temperature during infections. Then tumor necrosis factor alpha, what this causes is there will be an increase in vascular permeability during. So due to increase in vascular permeability, there is an increase in immunoglobulin and complement proteins. So this what happens due to increase in such conditions, there will be a defense against the infection. Then interleukin 16, what does this do? It helps the T cells activation as well as it inhibits the viral replication. It has antiviral property. So due to different enzymes production in our body, they'll degrade the viral mRNA. This is its function, interleukin 16. Now coming to interferons, A, B and gamma. What does they do? They help to recognize that infected cell by the CD8 lymphocytes and NK cells so that there will be a cytotoxic activity and the cell virus will be killed. This is a natural mechanism. When there is a disturbance in these cytokinins or any overproduction in our body, then that leads to cytokinin storm. We can also call it as infusion reaction or infusion syndrome. or cytokine storm syndrome or inflammatory response syndrome also. What are its signs and symptoms? Signs and symptoms are fever, fatigue, loss of appetite, malaise, fast breathing. Coming to laboratory ones, we have increased carbon dioxide level, increased nitrogen in the blood, and increased transaminase. Factor 1 deficiency, excessive bleeding will be there, increased bilirubin levels. How can you diagnose it? There will be a grading. First grade, mild reaction. Second grade, even the therapy is given, they respond promptly to the symptomatic conditions. Less than treatment will be or less than or equal to 24 hours. If they don't respond properly, then they'll be categorized second grade. Third grade is even though you give therapy for a long time, but they are not responding. They are classified under third grade and symptoms will be reoccurring. Fourth stage, life-threatening ventilatory support. Even they are receiving also, they are not responding. Fifth stage, death. These are its diagnosis and grading. What are the causes of this storm? It may be drug adverse effects or infections. This cytokine storm you not only see in COVID-19 or in flu conditions, we can also see in systemic sclerosis condition also, as well as pancreatitis condition also, and other respiratory conditions are South Asian respiratory syndrome and Middle East respiratory syndrome. Now, what happens in these? Let us look into this. In COVID patient, what happened? During this condition, virus enter into our body, then our epithelial cells produced primary defense mechanism. Our epithelial cells produce chemochemicals and pro-inflammatory cytokines. These act on lungs as well as defense mechanism. Primarily, we have in cases we have seen before that macrophages and natural killer cells help to produce cytokines, so they are released and they are get activated and release the inflammatory cytokines. Similarly, the macrophages too. And in meanwhile, there will be a viral replication. Virus will be entering into cell, destroy, and it produce DNA. They form into budding virus and replication and release go out. Meanwhile, these cytokines and pro-inflammatory cytokines act on the liver. So there will be an uncontrolled immune response. There will be an hyperinflammation. So lungs damage will be there and organ failure will be there. That may lead to acute respiratory distress syndrome. What happens in acute respiratory distress syndrome? We'll see necrosis, tissue destruction, influx of leukocytes, dilatation of blood vessels will be there. This is what happens in COVID patients. So, due to which there will be many deaths. In death, we'll see what individual cell role. Macrophages, there will be an overexpression of cytokines like tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukin 6, interferons. There will be an increased production. Due to increased production, there is a blood vessel damage. We have seen these roles, these chemoattractant roles before primarily what they normally do. So due to these overproduction, there will be a blood vessel damage. Now coming to NK cells, there will be an interferons. There is interferons, which lead to the lysis of the infected cell. So they're beneficiary in peripheral diametral tissue, somewhat beneficial, but if they produce over, that may damage the cell. Coming to neutrophils, there will necrosis, tissue damage will be there. The symptoms of autoimmune condition will be seen, and dendrite cells, there will be a poor maturation, and the secretion of interferons alpha and 1 will not be normal. So there will be an abnormal maturation and production. In cytokine storm, what will happen? There will be a clotting, then because of factor deficiencies also, and a shock, will lung injury, cell death, immune paralysis as we'll see here, autoimmune like symptoms due to neutrophils overproduction. So this is one of the symptoms, and renal failure. So overall there will be an hyper inflammation, organ failure, and infection. So this is what cytokine storm. Let us look into the bird view of this overall view. To fight against a pathogen that has entered into the body, T cells and macrophages, other immune cells, they'll come forward first line defense mechanism in order that in the meanwhile process, these cells secrete cytokinins as well as pro-inflammatory cytokinins also bind with cytokinins. They coordinate together. We, by the word cognate itself, we can understand. Cognate means closely related. So they get attached to the immune cell receptor, cognate receptors. So there will be cytokinin production further. So more and more cytokinins are produced. Overproduction or dysregulated this process lead to hyperinflammation, shock, organ failure. What are we have seen these cytokinins. What are those cytokinins? Interleukin 10, some interleukin 4 and 6, and SM CSF, and pro-inflammatory cytokinins are interleukin 1, 12, 18, tumor necrosis factor alpha, interferons, gamma. So, how will you manage this condition? Supportive therapy should be given, oxygen therapy should be given. If the condition is at grade 3 or 4, we can't help out. Only antihypotensive agents can be helped out. They are now using tolimuzid and anti-interleukin 6 steroids using for the treatment. These two drugs are used in previous conditions also, so that it may be helpful. Let us see. So that is what happens. So understanding this cytokine, I thought I will give you an example. Consider this pen. When ink is there in this pen, it will write normally. When ink is over, what you will do, you'll refill it. You'll get another refill, put back, and it will write normally. Suppose if you'll not get refill, what you will do, you'll be filling that empty refill. You don't know up to what limit you need to produce. Suppose by mistaken you filled it till end and you have inserted it, and you will be writing, but there will be an overflow of the ink. You can see this overflow of the ink here. Similarly, even in our body too, when there is an infection or any pathogen has entered into our body, there will be a release of immunoglobulins, and during defense mechanism there will be a release of cytokinins in order to kill that pathogen which has entered into our body. Suppose if it is not in a limit, it is overproduced, or during the order of production there is something disturbance which is of violent in nature, there will be an overproduction or decrease in production. Due to this, there will be an disorder or disturbances. Similar, this is what happens in cytokinin storm, and what not only in COVID-19 patient but also other flu conditions also. This is what happens due to the overproduction of cytokinins. There will be a body disturbance that what lead to the complications and fatal condition of the person. So I hope also whatever you do, be at home, stay safe, maintain social distance. Thank you.